From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Invest in Ed continues their fight to increase funding for public education, even after Proposition 207 was removed from the November ballot. Reporter Gabriela Becerra tells us what is coming next from the Red for Ed movement.
We've mourned, we've worked together, we've recovered, now we're ready to go.
The Red for Ed movement lost their fight to have Prop 207 on the ballot, but Arizona Education Association President Joe Thomas says their focus remains on the upcoming election.
Now the only thing to do is change some of the legislators down there. We have to elect pro-public education candidates.
They are calling this next movement Invest in Ed 2.0. Arizona Educators United leader Noah Carvelis says for the next 2 months, they will be canvassing for their desired candidates.
We're knocking doors, we're sending teachers out to talk about the issues that still remain in their classrooms and communities, and hopefully flip some seats at the legislature and see some changes happen.
Also canvassing for public education funding is Save Our Schools. They are encouraging votes against Prop 305.
We are using every day until the election to get as many people to know what is happening with education funding in Arizona and to make sure that they vote no on 305.
Prop 305 is the expansion of the Empowerment Scholarship Accounts, a program that uses public funding to send students to private and charter schools. Libby Goff is an accountant who spent her Saturday knocking on doors. Goff says she volunteers because she's concerned of the state of Arizona's public education funding.
We not only don't have enough funding going in to the bucket for public education, but we have things like the vouchers that are like holes in the bucket draining out the funds.
In Phoenix, Gabriela Becerra, Cronkite News.
The Arizona Supreme Court removed Prop 207 from the ballot. Their ruling said the measure didn't accurately represent what the tax increase would be if it were to pass.
A campaign was recently launched urging Doug Ducey to appoint more minority leaders within the Arizona education boards. Cronkite News reporter Brittany Watson explains why leaders around the state are addressing this issue.
Latinos are the fastest growing population in Arizona and roughly make up half of the K-12 student population, according to the annual Datos report in the Center for Student Achievement. Arizona for Latino Leaders in Education are calling for more diverse representation across the 3 state education boards.
Diversity benefits everyone, and that is the point that I think is very important. This will benefit not only our children, but the whole community in Arizona.
But the group says it goes beyond just equal representation.
It's really about meeting the needs of our students, empowering them as lifelong learners, giving them the confidence and academic skills to excel in college, and to become dynamic contributors to the future of Arizona.
The Latino student population continues to grow. At the kindergarten level, enrollment increased by 72%. Grades 1 through 8 rose by 78%. In high school, roughly 79%, according to the U.S. Census. Alfred Mendoza is the only Latino representative on any of the 3 main education boards. The boards are made up of 30 governor-appointed members.
The students and the families are diverse, and their needs and their expectations and what they're bringing to the classroom are diverse. And we need that understanding among the decision makers.
There are currently 3 members who are serving on expired terms, and 5 members whose terms are set to expire in January of 2019.
The group believes closing the representation gap starts with appointing qualified Latino leaders.
We need education leaders who share lived experiences, identities, languages, and the values of our students and families.
And it's essential that those who serve on these boards understand all students.
In Tucson, Brittany Watson, Cronkite News.
The group plans to continue their call for action through their online petition, social media, and traveling to speak throughout Arizona.
More recess, more playtime, and more exercise for Arizona students. Arizona recently implemented a new law that requires schools to give children in kindergarten through 3rd grade 2 periods of recess. But Cronkite News reporter Micah Bledsoe spoke with a Chandler mom who's concerned that her child does when recess is canceled.
Before this fall, kids in Arizona only got 1 period of recess.
A recent report published by the American Academy of Pediatrics suggests that play deprivation is associated with increasing rates of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Alexa Jones, a 7-year-old who enjoys recess, says sometimes though recess is canceled, Basha Elementary keeps students inside when there's a heat advisory or rainy days. When that happens, they participate in play programs like Go Noodle or Just Dance, where students play interactive learning games in the classroom.
Yeah, I don't like it when they take away my recess because I like to play with my friends, and when they take away my recess, I don't get to talk with them very much.
Her mother, Carrie Jones, says recess is a huge part of Alexa's day.
I'm just seeing a lot less anxiety and stress. She's more calm when she comes home. She's just not utterly exhausted.
Although she is happy about the new law, Jones says her main concern is when recess is canceled due to heat advisories or taken away as punishment.
And a lot of times what's sad about that is the kids that lose their recess are usually the ones that need it most. They're the ones that, probably act out in class because they have so much energy.
Santan Charter School principal Amanda Arrington says that kids need to move, which is why her school is doing more than giving elementary kids 2 recesses.
Our 5th, 6th, and 7th all have a lunch recess where they can play on the playground equipment, tetherball, foursquare in the field.
Arrington says the recesses help decrease discipline in the school and increase engagement in the classroom.
But we have to also remember that they are still children, and just developmentally, they're not quite ready to sit for 8-10-hour days.
In Gilbert, Micah Bledsoe, Cronkite News.
In August 2019, the Arizona law will extend to include 2 recess periods through the 5th grade.
I went to Tempe to talk to one student who depends on online classes for her degree.
Have fun with it. Not serious. Not too serious. There we go. Whew. Somebody's got to go do some leg days.
Add leg days to the busy schedule Emily Vance already has.
One step that way. I don't want to look like you have a cactus coming out of your head. Thank you.
Vance owns her own photography business and works full-time.
Mr. Fox, do you want to come help me take a picture? You want to come push the button? We're going to take a picture of Mom.
She's also a full-time college student, working toward a bachelor's degree in digital photography. And she goes to school every day from home.
I actually have been going to school for the past 8 years, and that is the only way I've been able to complete my degree or get close, because just the regular school didn't work for me. Going to class in that structured routine, I didn't like it. So one more year left, hopefully.
And she's not the only one pursuing an online education. Over 5.8 million students are taking online courses across the U.S. And at Arizona State University's online program, there's been a 60% increase of online enrollment since the 2016 school year.
When you're studying online, you're learning to interact and engage with people at a distance that will serve you in your lifelong career forever.
Vance believes the flexibility and accessibility of online classes serve her perfectly as well.
It's the only way I can finish my degree, because just with my crazy work schedule, I can't have a normal class schedule.
And for those thinking about starting an online degree, Vance says to just take it one step at a time.
So just take one class. You don't need to go full time. It's not a race, especially if you have a career or kids or just a busy life. It's okay to take 8 years to go to school.
And she can't wait to finally earn that degree.
So now that I can see that the end is in sight, now I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this. Let's just max out however many credits I can take per semester and get it done, because I'm ready.
There are over 150 degree programs, both graduate and undergraduate, offered at ASU Online.
The SAT is hard enough for many people, but waiting for the test results for one group of students has been the real challenge.
John Cardinale is in the broadcast center. John, what's the problem with the August 25th test?
The problem? The test version these students took was available online,
And the College Board says they're taking a close look at students' test scores. Ella Longo is a senior at Phoenix Country Day School and spent a lot of time studying for the August 25th SAT test at Vogel Prep in Scottsdale.
I prepared for about a month going up to the test. I'm not exactly sure how many hours, but I did sessions of 2 and 3 hours as well as prep on my own.
The SAT is highly looked at by many colleges to determine admissions, and classes to prepare can be expensive.
I was $135 an hour, but well worth it.
A few days after taking the test, Ella heard that the same exact SAT test had been administered in Asia just a year earlier.
The overseas tests, or portions of it, had been used previously. And those questions were compiled and put into the August 25th test, and then the test was used. What that means, though, is that students likely, or at least there's a possibility that students had access to that test and maybe had used it as study material or had at least seen the questions, which means that the test is really invalid.
Once the College Board learned of the issue, it released a statement saying, "If we determine students have gained an unfair advantage, we will take appropriate actions, including canceling test scores and, in some cases, prohibiting them from taking another College Board assessment."
I was kind of scared that they was going to change my score, which I didn't think was fair because it wasn't any of the students' fault, it was the College Board's fault. But I was scared that it would lower my score.
Test scores for the August 25th test came out on September 7th, and Ella did receive a score.
Her score came out exactly on the day that it was supposed to, so we didn't have a period of wondering.
Ella said she is happy with the score she received, but is skeptical of the test moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit hard to trust them after they made 2 mistakes in a row, but I'm sure it's happened before, and I'm sure schools will still use it.
The other mistake by the College Board? The test administered in June was reported to be easier than others, therefore graded way harder. The next SAT test is set for October. In the Broadcast Center, John Cardinelli, Cronkite News.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
A local businesswoman is teaching people with Down syndrome how to cook vegetarian fare for a more sustainable community. Cronkite News reporter Samantha Lomi-Bao explains how these skills will help them sizzle both at home and on the job.
All right, are you guys ready?
Chris Mill operates a food truck with a cause. Mill says she is inspired to teach people with Down syndrome how to cook at home or as a job.
My nephew, 12 years ago, was born with Down syndrome, and him and I have been cooking, and he's been staying overnights with me, and we've been working on cutting vegetables and learning the values of fresh vegetables, and he fell in love with it. And so through his passion of loving to cook and what he likes to do and what I like to do, it was a perfect match.
According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, 18% of people with disabilities were employed in 2017 compared to 65% of the abled population. Tucson resident Joseph Franklin says he was naturally drawn to the cooking class.
I like this to eat.
Mill says there are misconceptions that people with disabilities can only do limited work.
We had 4 children here cooking veggie fried rice on their own, and just to see that they can do that and they can create so much knowledge and help in society as they grow older just makes my heart so warm.
Mill calls it empowerment through employment and urges other business owners to follow the practice. In Phoenix, Samantha Lomi-Bao for Cronkite News.
Mill plans on having a hiring event next month. Her goal is to have at least 1 employee with Down syndrome working during every food truck event.
Recent data shows that women are underrepresented in STEM fields, even more so when it comes to women of color. Cronkite News reporter Edgardo Lozoya spoke with an ASU undergraduate student who understands the importance of her role in the sciences.
ASU senior Phoebe Newell grew up in Arizona and is pursuing an undergraduate degree in molecular biosciences and biotechnology.
Why STEM? Like women in STEM.
is that means that we want to do something to be role models.
As a child, Newell's love for STEM grew as she visited the Science Museum with her family and through science projects involving baking soda and vinegar volcanoes.
I knew I wanted to do something related to science and biology-ish when I entered college, and I'm now pre-med.
But Newell is not the norm. The world of STEM is still struggling to bring in more women, especially women of color. Women are less likely to enter and more likely to leave careers in STEM because of male-dominated work environments and lack of support from their sponsors. One ASU department tells us a reason this could be happening.
We did a yearly outreach that was to middle school girls. But you can say the words of, oh yes, you're welcome here as much as you like. It only matters if when they come, they actually feel welcome.
In a 2014-2015 study by the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, women of color earned a smaller percentage of bachelor degrees across all STEM fields, with Asian women holding 4.8% and Latinas holding just 3.6%. As the daughter of an immigrant who became a doctor, Newell says she's continuously inspired by her mother's journey, and she won't be deterred from achieving her goals.
There's always going to be someone who doesn't like whatever you're doing, no matter what you do. So you just have to say, I know what I like to do, I know what I want to do, and I'm going to do it. And that's something that definitely is important.
In Tempe, Edgardo Lozoya, Cronkite News.
The Center for Gender Equality in Science and Technology at ASU is one place that's focusing on creating more opportunities for women of all races in STEM fields.
Every day, the LGBTQ community faces discrimination in the workplace. As Sammy Giebers reports, one nonprofit group called 1 in 10 is hoping to bolster support and opportunities for the youth in the Valley.
Are you looking for like a second job with that? Okay.
Employers in the Valley
Nice to meet you.
are meeting LGBT youth.
Try to make it as readable as possible. Got dressed, looked nice, put on our good clean clothes, and went out here to fill out applications.
We're hoping to create a safe space where youth can come in and meet with employers.
Do you have a resume with you?
We are helping to reduce those hurdles and connect to jobs here in the Phoenix area.
There we go.
Another hurdle that faces the LGBTQ community includes homelessness.
In the general population, about 8% of youth are in the LGBT community. But in the youth homeless population, that number is at about 40%.
I was just homeless at two weeks ago, not even.
For Richard Wallerman and his partner William Diaz, that statistic hits close to home. They spent more than 2 years on the streets.
Well, the main reason we were on the street is because my family didn't really support the relationship I was in.
They also face discrimination in the workplace, and Arizona is in the top 10 states with the most LGBTQ discrimination charges, according to insurance quotes.
That's going to change as time goes on.
An event like this is really important because it allows organizations to understand that there are a lot of LGBTQ youth who are super hard workers.
Richard and William managed to get on their feet through the help of counselors like Sarah and organizations like 1 in 10 who hosted the fair.
Worst thing you could do is give up. Stop trying to find a better place, because there are better places.
But their next step is finding that job. In Phoenix, Sammy Giebers, Cronkite News.
Concussion research is at the forefront of football safety concerns. However, there is one injury as relevant as ever, and seasons right on the spot. Reporter Anthony Totri found out what athletes can do to combat that injury.
I caught the ball, turned upfield, and my foot got stuck in, and I tried to plant while my foot was still stuck in the floor, and it just snapped.
Carter Wheat is one of many.
I knew right then and there.
A torn ACL ended Wheat's sophomore football season at Red Mountain. Now a senior, he says his knee is as strong as ever thanks to his high school's emphasis on keeping athletes healthy.
And after a hard battle on Friday nights, I'm telling you, we need to have all the injury prevention and stretching and to help us out ready to go for Monday.
Red Mountain High School is one high school taking ACL prevention to the next level, and they're doing so with a higher frequency of single leg lifts like this one. Red Mountain's weightlifting program utilizes a variety of dynamic lifts that replicate in-game action, whereas static lifts, which increase muscular strength and endurance, don't incorporate much movement.
So an ACL injury most often happens when an athlete plants the foot on the ground so the foot's fixed, and then there's a rotational force. with or without trauma.
Brophy High School athletic trainer Chris White said the program has had multiple players tear their ACL this season, which backs up a 2013 study conducted by the Journal of Athletic Training that found boys were 4 times more likely to tear their ACL playing football than any other sport. The study also concluded that 71.2% of all boys' ACL tears recorded in the sample were due to football.
If you're playing high school and club at the same time, doing the same movements over and over again, there's a heightened risk of especially chronic overuse injuries. And the body breaks down, and that could potentially put you at higher risk of ACL injuries.
There may not be one way to guarantee an ACL injury doesn't occur, but White and Brando said stretching, lifting in a purposeful way, and understanding limits can boost an athlete's chances of staying on the field. In Phoenix, Anthony Totri, Cronkite News.
Knee injuries are the second most common injuries among high school football players, according to a 2016-17 study conducted by the Center for Injury Research and Policy.
Vanish the vape. It's an effort to stop e-cigarette smoking among teens. I went to Tempe to see how this campaign is taking shape at one school. They come in all shapes and sizes. Some even look just like flash drives.
Kids don't really realize what it is that they're getting into.
And now, an alarming number of teens use e-cigarette or vaping devices to smoke.
We didn't predict what I now believe is an epidemic of e-cigarette use among teenagers. The FDA will not tolerate a whole generation of young people becoming addicted to nicotine as a trade-off for enabling adults to have unfettered access to these same products.
The FDA announced their largest enforcement effort in history earlier this month. The commissioner says the FDA issued over 1,300 warnings and fines to retailers who illegally sold e-cigarette products to children and teens. And they're not the only ones trying to stop minors from smoking. The Tempe Union High School District is launching a new campaign for its schools called Vanish the Vape.
An initiative by the district to say this is a concern, this is something that we as a district need to help educate our students and community members and stakeholders that there's some bad things associated with it that people just aren't aware.
It focuses on the consequences and effects of vaping, and students are also getting involved.
I have to help, I have to put this out there just so people can hear it from one of their own. You know, it doesn't seem like it's just some old head talking to you. It's somebody you know, it's somebody you grew up with.
The campaign will use posters, videos, and social media to get the message across.
Don't disappear in a cloud of your own smoke. Vanish the vape.
And the hope that this initiative will go far beyond the classroom.
I think this is going to be heard and seen a lot, not just here in Tempe and not just here in Arizona, but I think this is going to start going, nationwide.
The Center for Disease Control and Prevention considers e-cigarettes unsafe for minors and young adults, as the nicotine in many of the products can harm adolescent brain development.
The Air Force is currently experiencing a pilot shortage. Here in Arizona, Luke Air Force Base is feeling the effects.
Cronkite News reporter Holly Bernstein tells us how various initiatives across the state are playing their part to combat the shortage.
Luke Air Force Base is primarily a training base. That means having fewer pilots has a serious impact in terms of being ready for potential missions. Currently, there are only 58 instructor pilots filling out 84 available spots for F-16 fighter jets. For the F-35 fighter jets, they only have 85 out of 101 instructor pilots. This has led to high school students coming from all parts of the state to train in different areas impacted by this pilot shortage. Every day at Luke Air Force Base in Arizona, pilots are training to fly F-16 and F-35 fighter jets.
And just getting up in the air, that feeling that you get in your stomach.
South Mountain High School senior Jaja Obasi says he'd like to follow in their footsteps one day.
And then just watching as everything gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
For now, he's taking part in his high school's aerospace program. But although Obasi and other student pilots are hoping their aviation careers take off, the Air Force is experiencing a pilot shortage. At Luke Air Force Base, which is mainly a training base, the primary concern is staffing instructor pilots. Air Force officials say that after 8 to 10 years, pilots in training often leave, looking for better ways to balance their work and family life.
Right now, we don't have enough of certain types of pilots to actually account for all the jobs that we need to do in the Air Force. So those can be anything from here in the front line of actually flying aircraft all the way to kind of the staff jobs that require pilot knowledge as a background to be able to do the job.
He also says another cause of the pilot shortage is aircraft availability, with maintenance playing a big role. That's because the number of pilots that can train depends on the number of aircraft available. 2 hours away, in Tucson, Arizona, high school students are learning those skills. Students involved in the Southern Arizona Teen Aviation Program are involved in all parts of building an airplane, including this fuselage.
Anybody who's going to fly, if they work on this airplane, will learn all about the intricacies of what makes an airplane go. I mean, I think we're trying to give the kids an opportunity to get their hands on an airplane, see what an airplane's like, fly in an airplane, work with an airplane, build an airplane. Andriotta says one way the Air Force is looking to produce more pilots is by increasing efficiency in training, where we can decrease the course length but not decrease the quality of the product that we're sending out there. So that's how we produce more. Obasi says he loves aviation because there's lots of experiences you can have within the field.
We need more pilots. It's definitely something that can't be overlooked. It's a fun field.
By 2024, Air Force officials say their goal is to have all positions manned at 95%. For fighter pilot positions, the year they are looking at is 2029. Holly Bernstein, Cronkite News.